I regained consciousness and looked to my right to see my wife dead in the car. We had just been in an automobile accident, but this story is much darker and more mysterious than you might think. My name is Todd Kinhammer, and I am a happily married man of 25 years. I live in Wisconsin with my beautiful wife Barbara and have a couple of children. One day in September 2016, around 8 a.m., my wife and I were driving. Suddenly a pipe came loose from a truck and went right through the windshield of my car. I was very dazed and confused. But as I looked around in shock, I saw my wife right next to me. She was not breathing and she had multiple head and body injuries. She showed no signs of life. I frantically called 911 and pleaded with them to come as soon as possible. They rushed my wife to the hospital, but she unfortunately passed away. The next day, the police went and did a crash report and looked at the security cameras at the location of the crash. This is where things took a turn for the worse. None of the trucks were seen on the security cameras, and what's even crazier is that my wife died from blunt force trauma. That doesn't fit with the idea that the pipe went through the windshield. You see, it was all a setup. I faked the crash because not too long ago I killed my wife. What better way to cover it up than to have a fatal car accident? Unfortunately, the police soon found out the truth. I was sentenced to life in prison. Stay tuned for more stories.
Tied my husband to the bed and stabbed him 193 times. I'm Susan Wright, and my story will absolutely blow your mind. I've had a few jobs, the last one being a restaurant waitress where I met Jeff Wright. We were soon married and had a child, and I was looking forward to a wonderful life. However, after marriage, Jeff gradually revealed his violent side. Within a few years of marriage, he began to abuse me, something I had always put up with. Until that night, Jeff took cocaine and became so violent that he hit me. This time, I couldn't hold back any longer and the demon in me exploded. I started by pretending I could have sex with him, provided I tied his hands and feet first. He agreed, thinking it was some kind of flirting play. With that, I tied him tightly to the bed. Then, I took out 2 sharp knives and stabbed him frantically, releasing all the anger I had felt for years. Finally, I turned myself into the police. In court, I argued that Jeff had abused me for years and that I had killed him to protect myself and my 2 young children. However, prosecutor Kelly Siegler said it was all a lie and that I was just trying to get Jeff's $200,000 life insurance policy. I was convicted of murder in 2004. I was sentenced to 20 years in Crane Prison in Gatesville, Texas. During this time, my 2 requests for parole were denied. However, in July 2020, I was finally granted parole. In December 2020, I was released from prison. Stay tuned for more true stories.
Stole a forklift from Lloyd's and ran over an innocent old lady with it. My name is Bryce Caleb Timothy Brown, and this is my shocking story. I'm a 20-year-old boy living in Maryland. One day I decided I wanted to have some fun, but not the kind of fun I was used to. I wanted new excitement. I was walking by the Lloyd's store and suddenly thought it would be fun to break in and drive their forklift. So I put it into action. I got in the forklift and even used it to ram through the door and drive right across the street. When I got to the parking lot of Home Depot, I saw an old woman sleeping in her car. I decided to pull a prank. I hit her car with the forklift and woke her up. She looked up with a shocked and scared expression. I told her to get out of her car and run away, and when she ran away, I chased her with the forklift and knocked her down. I then stole her car and vandalized the scene. A few hours later, detectives arrived at the scene and found the old woman's body. After an investigation, the police found the woman's car at my house. I was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, assault, and other related charges. I am currently being held in jail without bail. Follow more stories.
I survived a massacre against Mormons. My name is Devin Langford. I am 13 years old, and this is the horrific event that happened to me and my family. On November 4th, 2019, My mom and I, along with other family members and relatives, were getting ready to drive to a wedding together. All along the way we were having a great time, talking, laughing, and discussing wedding-related things, none of us realizing that a huge disaster was about to strike. As our car drove to an area where there was a gunfight between cartel groups, Mom was a little distracted. Suddenly a sharp burst of gunfire rang out and our car was attacked. Bullets hit the car like rain and the car instantly stalled. Mom immediately yelled at us, "Get down now." Mom was so anxious that she kept trying to restart the car, but without success. Until she too was hit by the intense bullets. After some time, the shooting stopped, and then the murderers drove off. Mom and 2 of her brothers died, and 6 other relatives were also killed. Fearing that the assailants would return, I managed to hide my surviving siblings in the bushes. Then I walked 14 miles to get help. I wandered in the dark for 4 hours and eventually found help.
I gave birth to my own children, but I am not their biological mother. My name is Lydia Fairchild, and my story is truly shocking. It all started when I decided to separate from my partner Jamie Townsend. We have 2 children. I was pregnant with our third, and in order to receive financial support from the government, we had to prove our paternity to the child through a DNA test. I was shocked when the test results came back and showed that Jamie was the children's biological father, but I was not their biological mother. I couldn't understand how this was possible, as I clearly remembered carrying and giving birth to the children, and the authorities began to suspect me of fraud and even threatened to take away my custody. Fortunately, a lawyer and a genetics expert decided to help me, and after many medical tests and in-depth research, they discovered that I was a genetic chimera. This means that there are 2 different types of DNA in my body, both of which I inherited from my twin fetuses during pregnancy, and that the cells in my blood do not match the cells of my children, but the cells in my ovaries did. As a result of this discovery, I was finally able to prove that I was the biological mother of my children, and received the financial support we needed. My story spread around the world and raised awareness of the phenomenon of chimerism.